So just a quick topic, and this one is a mixture of shitty history, as I like to call it, and I mean the dirty parts of our history. So back in the day when our ancestors, not that long ago, Victorian era perhaps, okay, where we used to chuck all of our shit out into the streets, literally, rubbish, piss, shit, you name it, it all went boosh out that window, okay? And what happened? Well, it's quite easy, isn't it? The rise of diseases and probably bacteria and flus like they've never experienced before, okay? And then some bright spark, I love bright sparks by the way, just want to cover that. No, seriously, I really love bright sparks, okay? Some bright spark come along and was like, maybe we better clear this shit up. So they got to work cleaning up all the shit, right? And then we grabbed all of our rubbish and started throwing it in a bin. Goody good. And then we found a patch of land somewhere, and then we just dump it all in this patch of land, okay? Which is great, it's good, okay? Until you have broke one cycle. I love cycles, I love them, they're everywhere, literally. And then you break one cycle, which is we move the rubbish away from the house and we dump it somewhere. And now, yeah, we're starting a new cycle. A little bit far-fetched, and it's a little bit more out of reach, but nonetheless, we've started a new cycle. So, let's say we cycle. Okay, fruit, my favorite, and also salads. Greek salad, wow, I love it. So, yeah, just gonna pause this quick. Okay, interruption out of the way with. Right, okay, so, where was I? The point? Yes, that's the point. So, you know, I love fruit. I love Greek salad. Definitely. Yeah, that's where we're at. And, you know, if you leave this in a fruit bowl for too long, you notice that white fluffy stuff on it. Or the little white stuff. If you don't eat all of this, you notice that little white fluffy stuff start to grow on all your food. Fruit. It's like called invading mycelia. If you've never looked it up under a microscope, I might suggest you have a little look. It's quite an interesting world going on everywhere underneath a microscope. Anyway, so invading mycelia is not a problem. Yeah. It's, you can breathe that sort of little spores in. It's like little, I don't know, I like to look at it as, you know, these little spikes with this little ball of juice on top. Okay, and then when there's a nice strong breeze come about, off it goes. Yeah, and I believe from the last time I checked in that these were recorded to reach out into space and that sorts of stuff like that. So anyway, they're very light and very about, they get everywhere. So with this in mind, there's not really much of a problem, okay? Now factor in dry atmosphere. How far do you think they'll travel in a drier atmosphere? Less rain, less water, less moisture. Wait, how far do you think those little tiny spores will get? Again, still not the problem, right? It's still not the problem, because the problem only comes when you look at what else we're throwing away. So let's take animals, for example. You eat a piece of chicken and, you know, you don't eat all of it and you chuck away its guts, whatever, all the rest of it goes to landfill. You got that nappy that you once had, right? In the bin, landfill. Interesting. Now, I've got to ask you another question. Just really quickly think about this, okay? Whilst an animal or being is alive, it has this thing called an immune system. But the immune system only works for as long as you are alive, living. As soon as you are not living, your immune system is no longer working, okay? So I've got to ask you a question. Do you think that if I had a lot of diseases, viruses, different types of crap all through me that my body has been suppressing all these years, and then when I die, are those diseases still, you know, suppressed? I don't think so. Let's get back to this, because we're moving off topic. If I was to die, or if we humans were to, you know, It's very crazy, isn't it, that when you think about it, that this little invading mycelia that grows here is okay if it's growing on here. What happens when you mix animal carcasses with it? Food poisoning. Food poisoning is a problem, right? And let's just not exaggerate for a second. I'm pretty sure somewhere in your life's line history somewhere, you've come across some pretty damn interesting... I didn't know that was in there. How long's it been in there? You sniff it and it's like, whoa, that is proper bad, right? Maybe a box of ham or something like that. It was in the back of the fridge somewhere, right? It's not quite at the growing stage yet, but, you know, any longer and you're going to have pets inside there. But it's at the stage where it stinks. It literally is savage to the nose. It's get that stuff in the bin immediately. Okay, and then it's like problem solved, right? And then once a week we've got these binmen come around, or once a fortnight, depends where you're at. And they come take away your rubbish. Rightly so. Keep it away from your house. Along with all of this, like little invader mycelia, along with maybe some stenchy meat. Now, why does that meat smell? Is it because of bacteria? And if the answer is yes, then because it's gone way past it. So this could then explain, if the animal's still alive, would that bacteria be growing like that on that box of ham you've got? No. Because the immune system is what stops it from happening, right? Life. When you live, you're basically suppressing all of these weird and wonderful things that are everywhere around us. If you were to eat that ham, even suggesting it, I'm not suggesting anybody does it, but if you were to eat that ham, would you get a really random case of food poisoning? Would you live afterwards? I don't even think any type of antibiotic, you know, come on doc, you wanna stick some of this in me, I need an intravenous, this, I don't know if that is going to even work for that, right? So it proves that it's pretty toxic, yeah? So we keep within the ratio of eat by date or use by date, and yeah, but when it goes past that, we throw it in the bin and think, it's the end of the problem. You know, if you ask a child at their growing age, where does rubbish go? And they'll tell you it goes into a big truck. That's as far as it'll go. And until you educate them that it actually goes from the truck then, and it has to be emptied. What? Yeah, this has to be emptied somewhere in a wasteland. Yeah, and then they start to think about something, okay? Now, let's say you have some invading mycelia in with this box of ham, leftover bits of chicken, and you know, it's creating quite a soup, really, quite a soup of all different things. And inside it, we got some, inside all of this carcass disease and shit. Let's be realistic, shitty history is not so far away. And you get some invader mycelia now start to grow on this apple that's buried within all of this crap. And as it starts to rot down, let's say the spores now appear. But are the spores, just like when we were living in shitty history, we became shitty. We became sick and ill and I don't know. If you had doctors back in horrid history times, let's say, I'm sure they'd have a field day. Literally. If you're able to make a time machine, I'm pretty sure that all scientists and doctors would probably mask up and head back for that time and just, what come here, give me a little sample, will you? What did you have in you back then? What was the main, you know, what's going on? And then you could come back with, oh my god, they had this and that and this and everything else, and it's like, whoa, because they were living in the shit. Now take the invader mycelia that is now going in your landfill, and it is now living in the shit. Realistically, that's where it's going. It doesn't stop the process of invader mycelia. Now, where am I going with this? I'm pretty sure if you're cottoning on to where I'm going with this, you are already starting to figure this out. The invader mycelium grows in this shit, turns into a beautiful little spore, okay? Kinda. And then it fucks off, right? Gonna find new land. Gonna venture like Columbus somewhere. I don't even know if that's how we're going with it. And, you know, these little spores now start floating around, and you're like, it's called breathing, right? And you breathe in this infested spore. Now, I've got to ask the question, I'm just merely asking the question, if that was contaminated by any chance, and you breathe that in, can you get sick? At your drier environment, these spores get more widespread because it's more drier environment, right? If you wet down a spore and it's very wet, it can still make its move in between the drops, but it's very rare, and it definitely hampers its ability to become airborne. So it keeps it congruent in an area. So if there were like super bacteria and all of this shit is just mingling together, literally, creating some sort of soup that we don't even know what's going on down there, and then these little fuckers fly out with it on them and you breathe it in, the spore might not be the problem, but yet the contaminated spore will be a problem. I'm almost sure of it. Makes you wonder whether we should get in, perhaps not disturb the earth too much, because, you know, it's always like every winter we get sick and everyone's like, yeah, but winter's really wet. Is it? These things might start releasing their spores after summer, which is after a good produce, and most of us have barbecues. The barbecues double, triple in the summer. Do you eat all of your barbecue food? Probably not. Does a lot of it get thrown away? It's maybe, yes, could be. Do you take a lot of fruit in the summer? Lots and lots and lots of fruit. And does this fruit go bad really quickly? And are we noticing a trend of fruit getting more and more rotten, more and more easily? Could it be because of the other invading mycelia spore of the pit, the skip, the landfill, is now so widespread on Earth that it is really getting onto these much more quicker and more readily, so it's more easier to eat away and create more spores? And if that be the question, and then the answer is yes to the question, then should we maybe, perhaps, be looking at landfill in a totally different way? It's possible. Now, how do we stop that problem? That's an interesting question. So, should meats be separate and put into a different box, and fruits be put into another type of bin? Could we divide the bins up? Would this prevent cross-contamination? So we keep all spores and all types of spore activity well away from meats and animals where they could potentially harbour bacteria, viruses, I don't know, whatever their immune system's been suppressing all their lives, and they go off to a different type of burial site, and then we keep all of the fruit and vegetables and all that sort of weird and wonderful stuff, and that goes again into another area where perhaps, you know, we can get the extracted juices from it. And the spores, are they much of a problem to humanity? I'm not sure, I just don't know. It will need looking more into. Can you get really sick off a spore? Maybe a few spores is not a problem, but maybe lots could be a problem. Here comes my cat. He comes join in. He always does. So that's just the question I've got. I'm not saying that it is, and I'm not saying that it isn't, but what I'm saying is, could we have a look at this possibility? And if so, could dividing our rubbish be the right way to go? Limiting what we throw away. And if we do throw it away, I think we're going to have to get a lot more creative with the way we are throwing stuff away. Not to add all of the same stuff together, such as fruit, animal carcasses, XYZ, rotten foods and everything else. They should go elsewhere and probably be buried, maybe. I'm not 100% sure on that either. Or is there a way that we can allow them to decay, but in a way where we can turn off, let's say, bacteria and viruses and stuff? So yeah, it's just one to ponder on. So yeah, it's just one to have a little look at. I'm not saying it is. Now, the remarkable thing could potentially be, what's remarkable about this? if we're able to figure this out, and let's say it is coming from such a source like this, and this is what's causing flu each and every single winter, makes sense, spores tend to release at the same kind of congruent with our barbecue and we shouldn't have to stop doing this. It's not the point if we should stop. I think the point of the matter is if we can deal with this in such a way, will we stop superbugs, bacteria? Will we stop colds and flu each and every winter? And will this now start to dwindle out? Because I don't know from horrid history whether they actually noticed anything, because the immune system would be working over time, really, literally. So it may have knocked this down for a little while, and then as time went by, it got tired, and then you started to see rises in more diseases. So it's possible. And now, when we looked at that and was like, right, let's get landfill, let's start taking our rubbish away from the house, much like the ants do, could we have then, because humanity, once we get to a certain level and a certain status among all species where we become quite dominant, we've got to start looking at all of these things that we once did, and we have to start looking at them. Another one I'm going to get into is bleach in a minute, on another video. But still, when humanity gets so widespread and we become so advanced, let's say, and we require lots of food, and that then generates lots of waste, we have to be able to recycle a lot of what we do in order to prevent things from running away. So this could be it. Imagine a world where there were no colds, no flu each year, because we dented the actual source of where it was coming from. I'm not saying it is coming from here, but to me, I think it might be coming from our landfill. Next one I want to move on to really quickly and just touch upon it. Let's say some people live in a dirty house, okay? And this same molding effect starts happening. You start getting like mold grow in the house. I'm pretty sure that if you live in a dirty house and you've got lots of mold and all different types of rubbish and all growing around your house, let's say, and then you get mold grow and it creates the spore process, and then the spores leak out into your town, can this possibly, potentially, be enough to impact everybody within your community? Just wondering, just curious, just asking a question. And if that is a yes, there's another situation we're going to have to deal with that one another day. But yeah, so I just want to touch on that. So moldy conditions in houses, maybe the mold is not the problem. Kinda. It is, because it sucks a lot of the carbon. No, it makes a lot of carbon. Some types of mold make carbon, I do believe. They're quite... Yeah, they're worse than humans, let's say, when I'm eating in all this oxygen and now all of this carbon. So it can be a problem. But also at the same time, it may not 100% just be that problem. It could be the problem that inside this, and when it goes into the spore stage, that if someone is in a dirty house, yeah, and this hits into the spores, and the spores grow in this contaminated environment, they then release. Does it have enough? I often wonder, does it have enough? Because they say, like, the saying, it takes one rotten apple to spoil the bunch. I would just wonder how far from the truth that actually is, that saying. It's very amazing. And I'm sitting here holding this apple. I am really wanting to eat it. I really want to eat this orange as well, so I'm going to have to go. And I might actually make a drink. I might make a drink. Yeah, a nice drink with these two, actually. A little bit of honey, nice bit of cinnamon. Ooh. And I'm going to eat this one. But yeah, so, just one to think about. So, you know, we did take our trucks away. It's a good thing. But now humanity is accelerating. And accelerating, there's more of us by the year. And more and more and more and more and more and more of us. Beautiful, by the way. Absolutely beautiful. But as there's more and more and more and more of us, we require more and more and more food, and thus for it's generating more and more waste, thus for generating this runaway effect that could be creating cross-contaminated spores that could be making us sick. Could be. So yeah, I don't know, dealing with it at the source might be the answer. I don't know. So maybe switching your bins and dividing your bins is one way of doing it, and perhaps the second way of doing it is to deal with the landfill as it is now. Go in there and put some treatments down. But natural, try and stick to as natural as possible, I think is the best antidote. Literally, there must be something we can use that's natural. Or if not, at the worst base example, I suppose salt. I'm not sure if this hampers anything. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know. I knew that they used to do it in old times to preserve meat. I wonder, it's probably not the answer to preserve everything, but if it has a way of keeping it away or killing the bacteria or limiting it, it could be an idea. But then again, it could dry it out too quickly, and if it does dry it out too quickly, it's going to run away with spores. So it definitely needs a delicate hand. What about keeping it constantly wet? That's a possibility, but then again, I suppose is it gonna be feeding this process? Adding a layer of concrete over the top? Yeah, I'm not too sure with the way the planet works, if that is actually 100% fail-safe option there. Not sure. So anyway, but yes, with the same principle, I'm gonna make another video about bleach and the runaway effect there. Things that were good and are very beneficial always will work out to be something that could be very dangerous in the long run when humanity gets to a certain status, a certain number. We have to relook and analyze everything that we have done before we got to that number, because what was helpful in the beginning and was really good, and don't underestimate it, some of these things have been really good for humanity, but now we got to a stage where there's a lot of us. This little bit of a lot then runs away every week, week in, week out, day in, day out. You'll need more and more and more and more, and we're pumping more and more and more of this into the environment. So it then starts to have a detrimental effect, whereas in the beginning it was a very, very good effect. It was beneficial. Not so much now. So let's see. I'm going on to another video now, but before that, I'm going to devour these. But yeah, so just one to think about. I'm not saying I'm right, and I'm not saying I'm wrong. I'm just saying, question. Curiosity. Very curious. Is it? Could be.